Welcome to Off the Grid, a podcast for small business owners who want to leave social media without losing all their clients.
Let's go off the grid. Okay. Let's go off the grid. Okay. I know that you really want to put your phone away. Yeah. Let's go off the grid.
Hello and welcome to Off the Grid, a podcast about leaving social media without losing all your clients, or today, a show about creating systems for sustainable business success. I'm your host, Amelia. I am the founder of Softer Sounds Podcast Studio, and on this show, I'm your fellow traveler and guide in our journey of making money online with radical generosity and energetic sovereignty. If you're new around here, welcome. We are currently in the 6th season of Off the Grid, and our back catalog has over 100 episodes of creative small business support for you. I'd recommend heading back to the very beginning to catch the first 4 episodes of the show, which pair perfectly with our free Leaving Social Media Toolkit that you can grab at offthegrid.fun/toolkit or at the link in the show notes. While you explore our back catalog, you might want to take a peek at one of our early episodes way back in season 1, where I talked to Patty Ryan Lee all about systems and how business systems can solve our problems. Patty was the first systems witch that I spoke with on the podcast, and today I am joined by another amazing systems witch to return to this topic, this time from the lens of creating business systems for neurodivergent entrepreneurs. We're going to take a really expansive approach to what it means to be a business owner, what it means to build systems, and a really, I think, deep and heartfelt approach to how we can craft a work and a life that serves and supports us in all of our uniqueness. So let me tell you about today's guest so we can dive in. Brigitte is a systems and self-care witch who builds intentional systems for neurodivergent creatives who want to feel proud, successful, and get shit done. She makes Notion templates and custom workspaces that are a launchpad to helping you cross the finish line on your projects and goals. Brigitte's voice has been on the podcast before because she contributed to our Magical Rituals to Transform Your Business episode last fall. Her contribution was amazing. You should definitely go catch it after you listen to this episode. And I am just so thrilled to have her back today, where she's going to teach us a 7-step framework for creating systems that serve your unique brain, body, and business. Hi, Brigitte. Welcome to Off the Grid.
Hi, Amelia. I am delighted to be here.
So lately, I've been starting every episode with the most basic questions I can come up with. I find that I'm really just trying to return to the fundamentals of business a little bit. And I'm really excited to do that with you today around systems. So I guess my first question is very straightforward, a little bit back to basics. But I love if you could start us off by just answering what are systems and who needs them?
Yeah, and I think that my answer is going to pair beautifully with that very simple question because in my brain, I like to start with just what is a simple dictionary definition, just to get me going. So I've got it here. If you go on Google, Oxford Languages Dictionary, it's going to tell you that a system is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done. It's an organized framework or method. And so that's just a very simple way to say a system is just some way that we get things done. And whether that is I like to think of things in both my personal life and business, because I think that they're very intricately woven together, especially as entrepreneurs that work from home. So whether it's your system for doing your laundry, which, I'm doing that during my workday, or your system for doing your bookkeeping or doing your marketing in your business. So it's essentially just the ways that we do the things.
Yeah.
So who needs systems? What I've realized is that we're all using systems all the time, whether we realize it or not. And that was kind of an aha moment for me, is that we all kind of have these ways that we're showing up and doing things. And it isn't maybe necessarily until we recognize that something isn't working for us that were like, oh, I need to do this in a different way. And for me, I've realized that a lot with exploring my neurodivergence and realizing the ways in which most systems around us in society, just everywhere around us that we have to kind of like wake up and be in all day, every day, are set up to serve neurotypical people. And so people that are neurodivergent are going to have more trouble like getting through these quote unquote like easy and simple systems, and I've noticed that within myself, and so that's what kind of my work has morphed into focusing on, is setting up systems for neurodivergent folks in particular, because, well, I'm just going to say it, I don't think it's very fair. I don't think it's very fair that like we have to show up and try to stuff ourselves in these boxes of how to do things, or how society tells us we need to or have to do these things when they're not working for us. And so the beauty is that we can design our own systems to help us get done the things that are really important to us and make things more fulfilling and easy so that we can show up and do the things that we love.
I really appreciate your openness and how many things you're weaving together in this reflection on what systems are and who needs them. One thing coming up from what you're saying is like everything's a system, from the most micro thing we do to the most like macro things we encounter. We are engaging in systems all the time as we move through the world. So everything from like what I do first thing in the morning, that's a system, to how I do my laundry, as you said, like that's a system, to how I do my bookkeeping, that's a system, to like how I get my car registered, that's like a whole other system, right? And some of these systems, we have a lot of sovereignty, power, control, agency with. Like there are systems that really we get to make the decisions around, what do I do when I wake up in the morning, perhaps for myself. Now, if you're a parent, you may not have as much control over what you do when you wake up in the morning. Or if you're a caretaker of any kind, you may have to do things in the morning for other people that aren't like how you might spend your ideal morning. And then there are other systems, right, where I have very little agency. Like if I want to get my car registered so I can drive it around legally, I have to do what the DMV tells me to do, right? Like I don't have authority in that space. Like the state has all the authority. And I think that's where we can start to see some of the latter part of your reflection, right? Where it's like one of the things I've encountered a lot and even enjoyed in being self-employed and starting my own business is to really start to look at, okay, what are the systems that I have a lot of agency within that I can create creatively and help serve me? And I find that when I'm focusing on that, I have a little more resource to engage the systems where I don't have a lot of control. Like when I feel really good about my business, it's a little easier to go do the taxes where I feel very, I don't know, like I have no power.
I think that too is why I'll bring up bookkeeping in a lot of examples and a lot of conversations that I have, because for me, that's not a fun thing to do. It's really hard, but I have set up a system so that I can get my bookkeeping done. And then when I'm at the end of it, like I'm at the end of my task, I've done my bookkeeping for the month, I'm like, hell yeah, I just did that. And then I get to feel that little like pump of excitement of, oh my God, I got through this really challenging, sucky thing that like I have to do in order to keep my business running. But like I've set it up, I've set the system up for me in a way that works and makes it easier for me. And at the end, let's celebrate because like I did it.
Okay, I love this example. And I'd like to maybe share some more examples from each of our like personal lives or businesses around how we set up a system and how it has supported us. And then I also want to make sure we circle back to that celebration piece and how we celebrate when we like accomplish something through a system, because I'm always so intrigued by that and really like to emphasize that pleasure piece of a system as well. But before we get to the end of the system, I want to start a bit back at the beginning with these examples. So, Brigitte, could you share maybe one or two other examples of a system that you've built that has improved your business or your personal life?
Yeah. My weekly planning process I was trying to think about the process of it, the system of it. And I guess I also want to say that I like to use these words kind of interchangeably, like system, structure, process. To me, it's all kind of like the same thing, pretty much. And so I was trying to think about what did I do before I had my weekly planning process? And I'm like, honestly, I can't even remember it, which I mean, I was like floundering, right? Like it wasn't going well. So that's why I put this process into place. So my weekly planning process, I go to Notion, which is where I run my business.
Yeah, same, same.
And on my daily dashboard, which is that's my go-to page to get shit done. That's got everything I need to get done on a daily and weekly basis. And so I have a section of it where I do my weekly planning. I've got a little button that I've set up. It's got a little toggle in it with my check boxes, and it tells me exactly what I need to do to go through this process, from clearing out my previous tasks from like last week to putting my new ones in for this week. That's also where I start my weekly review, which on Mondays I call it my check-in, my weekly check-in. So it takes me through all of these things that I've kind of over time worked on and refined to realize that this is what I need in order to set myself up for success for the week. And so then I get to go through all those little check boxes, check them all off. I take a look at my inbox, I take a look at my email, I get through this whole little system. And then that enables me to sit down at my desk and start working on the things that are going to move the needle on my goals, my projects, instead of like going back to thinking of like, what did I do before this? Especially with ADHD, if you sit me down and you're like, okay, Bridget, go to work, like, happy Monday. Good luck. Like, I don't know what to focus on. I don't know what to get started on first. That just is way too overwhelming. And so by having this supportive process for me, it enables me to sit down and I know what I'm focusing on. I know what I'm working on. It enables me to get into it and be able to do this with more ease instead of just not taking action on anything that's important.
Yeah, I feel like this is reminding me of my own journey with task management and all the things I had to learn when I started my business around. I mean, it started with just like how to get the work done. At the beginning, it wasn't even like how to do this in a way that feels good. It was just like, how do I do it? How do I get it done? How do I stop forgetting things and then freaking out at 9 p.m. when I get an email from a client that I'm checking on my phone, which also isn't the most supportive system, and realizing like, oh shit, I was supposed to do that yesterday and I didn't do it. And now it's like, I'm trying to go to sleep, but I'm thinking about this thing I forgot to do. Like that was sort of just the spiral that would happen to me week in and week out when I was first getting started because I didn't have systems. I didn't have a process. I also encounter this a lot with my podcast clients where, especially for like my beloved DIYers out there, a lot of them make every episode a totally different way.
My eyes just got humongous.
Yeah, that was really a really great, like visceral embodied reaction. But it's true. And I don't say that to like critique anybody, but I can see the strain it's putting on them. And so many of them will stop making their show because every episode feels like a mountain that they have to climb because there's not just like a checklist of a process. And I have done so many podcast advising systems with people where all we do is like talk through every single step of what they're currently doing and we sort of tweak it and we turn it into a checklist. And like that is all that it takes. But also that is a lot to like figure out how to do. And I think that that's how I used to feel about every week. Like every week in my business was a mountain I had to climb. And there was also this way where the more successful I got, the more tasks I had, the bigger the mountain got. And so I really hit this point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. If I keep operating in this way where I am flailing and I'm just trying to get things done, like I won't have a business. Like my well-being was decreasing and I was like, I can't keep going this way. Like this will not work. And so I kind of paint that picture to say, like, if anyone's arriving to this episode in that place, like Bridget and I have been there, that space of like, this is not working. And Bridget, I know for you, like a lot of your journey out of that has come through your path of like neurodivergence and ADHD and learning about that and building systems that serve you. And that hasn't been exactly my journey, but I've still been on a journey of being like, how can my system serve me? And just to try to like map that path a little bit for listeners, like from that place of like, this is not working. The first thing I did was I just started by making a to-do list on a sheet of paper, like actually writing down every task. That was like my first baby step, right? Like productivity 101, make a to-do list. So the first step of my weekly check-in was on a sheet of paper. I had the name of every single client that I worked with. And then next to their name, every Monday, I would write the tasks that I had to do for them that week. And that's how it started. And it was very manual. Every week I would like flip the page, I'd rewrite the names, I'd put all the tasks on it. And that helped me sort some things out. But then eventually there were too many clients and making that list was like my whole Monday and it was overwhelming and I wasn't really getting things done because I felt like all I was doing was my process and none of my work. And that's where a tool like Notion, as I was able to move things into Notion and automate them, which is what you're talking about, right? Like the buttons and the templates and the ways that I could automate those systems, it saved me so much time. And now I don't even do a Monday check-in every week because everything is set up in my systems such that everything's in motion all the time. And I don't even have to be the one doing it all the time. My team can work on things. I check in, I get tagged in as needed. Like because of the systems I built, my business is so much more fluid and flexible. And not everybody will get there or needs to get there. But I just wanted to sort of paint the picture of like, there's such a big distance between me having no system, me having that write it down on a sheet of paper every Monday to like now having this pretty complex system that's just in flow and runs the studio. And that's like the magic of systems.
Oh, it is magic. And then the other magical part is then when you're in this magical flow and then if you hit like a bump or something or you're like, oh, wait, this isn't working anymore. Well, you still have that whole foundation and you're like, oh, maybe I just need to tweak this one little thing. Or like another example I thought of as you were talking was that I have a template set up for my YouTube videos. So every time I start a new YouTube video, I've got that template set up. It has everything that I need. It's got my checklist of to-dos. It's got spaces for all my links and it tells me, like all the different pieces that I have to have. And as I'm going through that process of creating a new video, I might notice, oh, I'm doing this process a little bit differently. And so then I can go in and just edit my template a little bit to refine those steps. And then boom, next time I do a video, it's ready to go.
I love this iterative method you're kind of describing to us. And I think that what this is bringing up for me as well is like, I think especially in online business, it's so normal if you're like trying to do something to go try to find a template for it, right? Whether that be like a checklist, a process, a Notion template itself. And I love templates, right? Like I create some, even in the softer sound space. You can download my free podcast launch toolkit and it will give you a step-by-step checklist, which is a type of template. But I think like as we've both been talking, what we're describing is how we are sort of unearthing the process from what we're already doing rather than sort of forcing a template onto our workflow. And so when I am working with a template, the way I like to think about it is like, if I get this template from someone else, my whole job is to kind of wreck the template. So it's like actually for my life, not for their life or whoever created it, and not for some imaginary version of somebody who's doing this. And I think that often what I encounter, and I'm so curious what you think about this, like I encounter a lot of people who think that like the template or the checklist is the shortcut to getting what they want. But I actually think everything that you're doing to personalize it and make it true to your life, like that has to be done. I don't think we can skip that work.
For sure. And this is also why, because I sell Notion templates. And this is what I say in like my intro in my bio, that these templates are a launch pad. They're not the thing. They're not going to solve or fix or do the work for you. They're going to like light that cute little fire under your butt because I'm an Aries and that's what I do. And it's gonna provide that point for you to start from and to make it your own. And I think that when I started my business, I thought that everything was gonna happen a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought like, okay, well, now this is what I want to do. I'm committed to it. Like it's just going to take off, boom. But then I like quickly started realizing that it's not going to do that until you have done the work, right? You have to build your body of work. You have to start actually working with people. You have to see how you show up and what works for you in order to make your schedule and do your work. And you can't do that by just downloading a template and following what someone else says. That's a good starting point to give you some ideas. I think that's great if you're like, I don't even know where to start or where to begin in this kind of a process. It's a great launch pad, but you have to show up and do the work and fuck around and find out.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And I think that this also sort of gets us back to where you started us around like neurodivergence and the ways that it can feel like unfair, as you put it, that like the templates that are out there in the world, the systems that are all pre-existing may just extremely not work for you. Whether you're neurodivergent or not, but I think especially if you're neurodivergent, a lot of these very neurotypical created and focused systems and templates and checklists, and frankly, the whole like online business growth escalator that I've critiqued before, like all of that is built within a white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchal system that is ableist and that is neurotypical. And so I have so much compassion for all of us who kind of lift those norms, expectations, templates, and systems and internalize them. And then we're like, well, why can't I do this? And it's because it was never built for us to succeed at it. And then what I love about your approach to systems is like, well, here's a different invitation to take a different path, to build something within yourself and for yourself that does work for you. And it is more work. And that can feel really unfair, right? Like sometimes I'm like, it'd be great if I could just like be a quick, easy success and millionaire all of a sudden. I don't know. I don't actually know if I want that. But there's definitely a part of me that like can be drawn in to the templates that feels pretty like they're pretty alluring sometimes, especially when things are hard, right? To just be like, oh, I can just like download your $27 mini course and you'll tell me how to have my first 5-figure month. That sounds great. Like, I get it. I've been there. I've downloaded the courses, friends. But I try to, on my better days, reclaim like the invitation of my own specificity and uniqueness and the power of like really rooting into my way of doing things, not the way of doing things. And I just want to say, I also think that's where magic is. Like, that is literally the magic.
I was just going to say that. I was like, that's where this is. Yeah, the magic. And to all of that, this has not been an easy journey for me to accept all of this. It's been very challenging. And I think that that's why I'm really passionate about helping other neurodivergent folks or other entrepreneurs that are doing similar things, is because I have seen how much my life has improved in ways of I just have more ease and more flow. And like I mentioned before, focusing on the things that are important to us, we get to determine what our values are. And like for me, one of my biggest values is connection. And so connection with my friends, with my business friends, with my partner, with my animals, with my backyard wildlife, like these are the things that are important to me. And it's so cool that I get to set up my business in ways that work for me so that I'm able to focus on those things. Because for most of my life, I held this vision in my head that I had to work the whole 9 to 5, Monday through Friday at a job for the rest of my life. And I tried so many times to do that. And I also deal with chronic pain and mental illness. So, like, self care is a big part of my work as well. And I would get so burnt out and run down and unwell and not able to focus on those things that I valued most. And I've tried so hard to do that, even within my business, even within these parts of me that have rebelled and been like, this doesn't work for me and I'm going to do it my way. There's still like that thing in the back, like clawing at me to try to like get me to do it. So it is really, I think, special and magical when you can look at those things and say, no, this doesn't work for me. And I'm going to do it in a different way. And I'm going to build it in a different way that does work for me. And I think that's so much of a more fulfilling life.
I just keep thinking that like that is the path of the artist. That is the path of the witch. And I think that can be the path of self-employment and small business. I don't think it always is, because the small business path can be very like drawn toward norms. But I think people like you and I are carving something else out there. And we're doing it by being witches and artists and creative spiritual people in the process. Let's talk about something I know we all feel around here. That moment when you are totally done with following one-size-fits-all business advice, but you're not quite sure what to do instead. If that's where you are right now, I want to share a free resource from friend of the pod and Off the Grid sponsor, Bryn Brown. Bryn is a former corporate sales and marketing strategist turned soulful business guide, and she's created a free masterclass called The Secrets of Soulful Success. It's 60 minutes of straight-up clarity, helping you build a business that matches your energy, your goals, and your truth. Bryn's whole approach is not about doing more. It's about doing what's aligned, so you get more done with less effort. That means your marketing becomes more natural and magnetic, your offers resonate deeply and convert better, and money becomes a happy byproduct of doing work you love. And I've got to say, while Bryn is a human design coach I personally know and trust, this masterclass goes beyond human design. This is a high-level holistic approach for energetic mastery of your business, and it's a masterclass you don't want to miss. You can watch it anytime at brynbrown.com/offthegrid. That's BRYNBROWN.com/offthegrid. You can also find that link in the show notes. And I hope that you will head there and find soulful business success for yourself today. Now, let's get back into this episode. You have a 7-step framework for creating systems for neurodivergent entrepreneurs. And I'm wondering if you can just kind of take us through the steps. Tell us, where do we begin the process? What is step 1?
Yeah. And so I don't think any of this is going to sound new because we've literally already talked about all of it. So it's just about, I think, putting it all together. And so the first step is to start small. You're just going to choose an area to focus on that might feel like there's some friction. So first step is just noticing and picking that thing that you might want to make a system about.
I think that's beautiful. Could you give us just like a couple ideas for examples of somebody's drawing a blank?
The example that I brought for this is laundry, because like I mentioned before, if you're working from home, you got to balance both the home stuff and the work stuff. And this for me was a big source of tension. So first I noticed that I was always stressed about the laundry. So step 1, we're choosing that area to focus on. So then step 2 is noticing where you already are right here in the present moment with that thing. So we're just going to consider ways in which you may already have a system or the beginning of a system already for this. What's your current process for getting that thing done? So like we mentioned before, you might not even think that you have a system for this thing, but I guarantee if you're already doing it, there's a system. So now we're just going to go ahead and document what you're already doing. So for the laundry, I noticed that what I was doing was when I would run out of clean underwear, then I would wash the clothes. So that was my
The
system.
system. Got it. Love it. Very relatable.
So then, step 3, we're going to consider the ways in which these systems are not working out for you or could be working better. So, what about this current process makes it feel tense or stressful? For me, with this laundry, I was always running out of clean underwear, which made me feel really overwhelmed because then the laundry felt like this really urgent thing that I had to do, like right away, right then. All right, then step 4, I like to sometimes call this future visioning in my work, which is a big part of my work. Now we're going to envision where you're going. So, what are your goals with this system? And how would you like this system or process to feel?
Oh, I love this focus on the feeling so much.
So, with the laundry, I wanted to tap into knowing that I always have enough clean clothes. I would ideally like to be free from the anxiety of running out. And number 5, what small action steps can you put into place to start moving towards those goals? So these are just going to be your little action steps. This is going to be your new system. And so I came up with a couple different ideas for my laundry. So I thought maybe I could schedule doing laundry on a specific day of the week, or try committing to putting the clothes in the wash as soon as the hamper was full enough. And so I would make my little checklist of this is what I'm going to do. So maybe I'll start doing laundry on Mondays. And that means on Monday, I put the clothes in the wash. And I do have a rest of a laundry like system that goes with it that I can tell you, but let's get through these steps. So then number 6, you're going to go ahead and experiment with the new system and see how it goes. We're going to collect data. This is one of my most favorite things. I don't know if it is because I've got a math degree. I did statistics and also like sciencey things. Collecting data, it's just, we're not judging it. We're not saying anything about ourselves and our ability to do this thing. We're just finding out what happens. So staying open and curious. And then step 7, we're going to use that data to move forward and refine your process or system. So this is the part where you're going to experiment in number 6, and then you're going to take that data to move forward to make your new system.
Okay. I want to talk about laundry. I want to talk about this framework. I want to think through some of my own examples with you. Before I go even deeper, I took notes while you were talking, and I'm going to recap for listeners. So, our 7-step framework. Step 1, notice where there's friction in your life and pick something small to start building a system around. Step 2, document what you're already doing for that thing. What's your current process? Step 3, consider how that's working and what might not be working there and what could be working better for you. Step 4, do that future visioning around the goals and feelings you want to have. Step 5, take those small action steps. Step 6, experiment and collect data with your new system. And step 7, move forward and refine. I feel like you laid it out so beautifully, everything we talked about in the first half of this conversation. Like, there's a sort of meta thing happening here where we like had a whole conversation that you systematized for us, which is the beauty of a framework, right? Like, frameworks are a way that we systematize ideas or like structure our ideas, particularly, I think. So before I go into some of my own examples, I would love to just hear a little bit more about laundry in your life. And it's like, tell us, it sounds like before what you were doing was just waiting till you ran out of underwear and then like panic laundering all of your clothes, which hey, I can relate to. What do you do now? And like, how have you kind of crafted a new system and iterated on it? I want to just like hear the sort of like before and after before we move to a different example.
Yeah. So now the process, the system that I have for it, it works really well. So as I'm doing my morning practice before I start my workday, this is just how I start my day. I will throw a load of clothes in the washer when that hamper is full. So I realized that doing laundry on certain days wasn't going to cut it for me. It's just basically I notice when that hamper is full enough for a load, I'm going to go ahead and do it the next morning. So I put that laundry in before I sit down to have my smoothie and journal. And then by the time that I'm done with that, the washing machine is done. And another important part is that I leave the hamper right by my upstairs, like stairway, and my basement door are right next to each other. So I leave that hamper there. And seeing that hamper is a visual cue to me to know that I am still in the laundry process. And so after I do my journaling, I'll go down, I'll switch the laundry to the dryer. And then I come up, I still leave that hamper there because the clothes are in the dryer. And so then at some point during my day, I'll go down and bring them up, usually maybe around like lunchtime. And once the clothes have come up out of the dryer, they're in their clean hamper, I set them at the end of the couch. And that's when I am done with that process because I am useless when it comes to folding clean laundry. So that is where it is my partner's turn to get into the process. He folds the things and takes them upstairs to put them away. And then that's when that dirty hamper can go upstairs once the clean clothes have been brought up. And that's how we do it, baby.
Yeah. I love this so much. As you were talking, I was like deconstructing every step of my failed laundry processes in my life because there are so many friction points for me. Like, I do okay at noticing that the laundry is full, and sometimes I can then get it downstairs into the washer. So for me, I'm lucky enough to have a washer and dryer in my house, and they're in the basement. So I can sort of like get the laundry into the wash downstairs, but I cannot like remember to put it in the dryer, let alone get it out of the dryer after it's done. So what has ended up happening is my partner just does all the laundry in our house, which is a gift. And if, in choosing to organize the labor that way, I think that's fine. But also sometimes I'm like, it would be nice if I had built a system in which I did some laundry or like didn't always forget the random thing I put in the wash downstairs. And so as you were talking, what I loved, I was just like pulling out like, oh, you have the visual cue of like the hamper is here in a place where you're going to go buy it and notice it. And I'm like, oh, if I just put the hamper that I carry the clothes downstairs in, instead of leaving it on the washer after I put them in, if I brought it back upstairs and had to trip over it all day, I'd remember the clothes were down there and I'd probably go move them. So just things like this, like, because other things I've tried, like setting an alarm, I just ignore it. Like I just turn it off and I never go back downstairs. It like doesn't work for me, which I know is like a simple fix that might work for other people. And similarly, I heard you say, like, you tried to do laundry on Mondays, but that wasn't the right solution for you. And I think it's so important to just emphasize that experimentation process instead of like berating ourselves because the day of the week model didn't work for you or the alarm model didn't work for me. We just keep trying till we find something that does work. And for me, it's definitely going to be like literally falling on my face over the hamper someday. Probably is what it takes for me to remember all of this.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to acknowledge the things that we're like, yes, we're gonna try this and maybe it doesn't work for us. Like I kind of like folding towels, but there's something about that basket full of towels that I just literally can't. So I had to have that conversation with my partner of like, why isn't the laundry getting finished? Why is it just stacking up here on the couch? And we had to come up with then the rest of the system that worked, in which case I handed that part of it over to him because he's able to do that part. And I had to be okay with the way that he folds towels. So I think that that is part of building these systems too, is kind of acknowledging the things that like, sure, we might want to do this as part of our system, but maybe that's just not in our skill set or our ability. And so sometimes we do need to ask for help or bring other people in, do things in different ways. I think with neurodivergence, ADHD in particular, things like body doubling can be really helpful, stuff like co-working, just finding these supportive containers and resources that are going to enable us to still be able to do these things in our system, even if it's not the way that we hoped for or intended at first. I think that I've had to do a lot of acceptance for myself around needing different things. And once I got to that point, now I'm able to say, oh, yeah, I know exactly what kind of container I need in order to get this task done, or what kind of resources I need.
I love so much about what you just shared about your laundry process because I think it includes a lot of elements that are important for system building, whether we're in like a personal context or a business context or at the intersection of them, as you've so nicely reminded us. Like if we work from home, we also do laundry from home. So it lives in the same context. I think that one thing you're pulling out is just finding places we can bring in support. There's so many places in my business where I felt like I had to do something by myself, and I was able to bring in a friend or bring in a contractor or hire it out, whatever it might be. Like, I think that the more aware we are of our systems and their sort of friction points, the easier it is to identify where we could use that help. And I've just found time and time again that that's really supportive. I also really liked that you emphasized sort of like knowing what you need to get something done. What it reminded me is like, oh yeah, you may have like a whole system for doing a task, but what it requires to actually start that system is that you log on to a co-working call. Like that's the first point in the system. And like then you move into your process. And as we're recording this, I've been hosting a co-working club, and I love when people come to fold their laundry or for me, like eat breakfast and to get their work done and to do business things. And this summer, I'm hosting a Summer Mondays co-working club where we gather on Monday mornings to do that. So if folks are interested, you can find that in the show notes. But I too, like I was such a co-working skeptic. I was like, why would I want to be on Zoom just to do the random things on my computer? And I'm a total convert. Like I find it so supportive to just feel like held and cheered by other people as I do things. So yeah, I just love this emphasis on sort of the like interpersonal and communal contexts and support systems that we have, right? Like I think some of the way we've been talking about systems today, or that I've really been emphasizing, is like the individual nature of them, how unique they are, how specific they are to each one of us, which I think is true. And also, we don't have to do everything by ourselves. We are not the only person in our life who has to single-handedly lift every single thing that needs to get done. Like, I think that mindset does set us up for a lot of stress and overwhelm and even failure, like systems failure, quite literally. And so I love embracing community in the process of building systems. And I love how even in just the simple example of your laundry system, that's embraced with your partner, right?
Yeah, I'll say it again too. I think it's so important, especially for neurodivergent people, to show up and do things in community, because I know, like, for my whole life, I have felt so alone, so isolated, so much of feeling like, what's wrong with me? And why can't I figure this stuff out? Like, why can't I get this stuff done? And then learning about all of this and learning about the different kinds of resources, or things like how accountability can be helpful, just having like a buddy to check in with. Like my business bestie and I, we do so many things together, and it's great because she's also local. So we can do things in person together and or like over Zoom, but we will check in with each other after we do our weekly reviews, or we'll get together to do co-working on the tasks that seem impossible for us to do in our businesses. But it's just like, it's a really great container to both get things done and to realize that we're not doing this on our own and we don't have to do it on our own. And when we show up and we can do it together, we can support each other, we can cheer each other on. That's another beautiful, magical part of doing this and doing business in this way.
I love that so much. So much earlier in our conversation, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about celebration. And I think that everything you just said about community reminded me about like the pleasure we can build into our systems. Like these don't have to be, bland task lists. They can be colorful and beautiful and pleasurable. Systems can be fun. They can be shared with others. And also, you mentioned like building in a celebration at the end of like the completion of one of your processes. So could you talk a little bit about like, one, I want to know how you celebrate laundry. And two, what are other celebrations you've built into systems?
Okay, how do I celebrate laundry? You know what, Amelia? I think that I might need to explore that for myself because I'm not 100% sure that I do celebrate that. And actually, building these celebrations in and celebrating things has been something that I have not been great at and would like to get better at. And so this has actually been a big part of my focus of like something that I'm exploring this year. But next to me on the wall here, I have a wall calendar that is Cats on Catnip by Andrew Martilla. He is one of my favorite photographers. He's a cat photographer. And so it is a very, very silly calendar. And I have little star stickers that have little faces on them. And I will put a little star sticker on my calendar on that day for anything that I do that is hard or challenging or I don't want to do or took a lot of energy. So every time I do the laundry, I get myself a little sticker on that calendar. And then what I'm trying to figure out now is what I want to do for myself at the end of the month. For example, right? Like I've got this month full of stars, like, wow, holy shit, look at what I've done this month. I did this the entirety of last year, and just keeping up with it was surprising and something that I felt very proud of. But like looking back at like, holy shit, look at all that I do to take care of myself, to take care of my home, to take care of my family. Wow, like I am really showing up for myself. And so that was really cool to see that all in a place like that. So I am still kind of trying to figure out like what are those extra little celebrations that I want to do for myself. But I guess a business related one is something that I picked up back in the Lifestyle Business League when I think it was around money rituals. And I already had this process for how I would go in and keep track of my expenses and my income and pay myself. But what you brought to the table for me that I added into it was more of the ritualizing and like opening the ritual, which is how I do my workday and how I do all of that, right? Like lighting my candle, saying my affirmation, putting on the songs that I want to listen to. And then at the end, after I do everything, you had a little list of ideas of ways to celebrate. And one was to celebrate with your business bestie. So now, twice a month on Fridays, after I do my little money ritual, I will text my business BFF and be like, oh my God, I paid myself. My business is still running. Like, here we go. She'll send me all these gifts and we'll just have a party about it. And I even show up to her on those days that I am feeling not good about myself, not good about my business. Maybe I wasn't able to pay myself as much, or I'm just not feeling good about where I'm at right then. And I'll show up to her, I'll text her like, hey, I'm here to tell on myself that I'm not feeling very good and I don't want to celebrate this. And then we get to acknowledge all of that, but then also celebrate that like I am still showing up. I'm still doing the thing. Look at me still being committed and like that counts too. That's a special moment.
So special. I love this sort of embrace of celebration that includes embracing the moments we don't feel like celebrating and committing to showing up anyway. And if all I can celebrate is that I've shown up, like I always like to say, like staying in business is worth celebration. I mean, it's also beautiful if people into business or like, I'm not saying you have to stick it out forever just because, but when we do keep going, I like to celebrate just the keeping going, even if that's all I can muster, because I agree. Some months I am definitely texting my biz besties and being like, okay, nothing to celebrate, just that I didn't quit yet. Like through gritted teeth, like that's all I can muster.
I'm still here.
But other months, we're celebrating like amazing, beautiful things, right? So I think it's really nice you've kind of brought that both and to us. And I'm also glad you brought in that money ritual piece. So that is a workshop that I first taught in the Lifestyle Business League and actually just recently taught again at our money rituals retreat inside the interweb. And something that the idea of ritual really unlocked for me, like I think a ritual is a type of system that's really rooted in perhaps like more spiritual, magical practice. But the ritual piece for me had a lot to do with the sort of like opening and closing of a ritual container. This is something I've learned through studying with my friend Grace Allardyce and Homebody and her work on the Homebody podcast, is like how to set an intention for an activity or a system and then like move through the set of steps through the process, like maintaining that intention, and then sort of close out that set of actions and then celebrate. Like, I feel like that's something I learned in ritual practice that I never really learned in a business context. But when I was working on money, what I realized is like, especially early in my business, looking at the money could like dysregulate me so much that I had to build in these like start and stop points. I had to make it a ritual that opened and closed, because otherwise I would like look at my bank account and then be like wrecked for days, which was like not supportive. So if folks are interested in that, that workshop lives inside the interweb now, and you can join us and revisit it there. And maybe I'll bring it out of the vault onto the podcast sometime. But I wanted to wrap up by kind of sharing the list of celebrations that I put in that workshop, because you mentioned it and you shared with us how you're using them. So if folks are tuned in and you're like, okay, I'm going to use Brigitte's 7-step framework to build some systems in my life, like, don't forget that at the end of every systems process, we're inviting you to build in a celebration, whether that be the gold star on the calendar, which I love, Brigitte. That was such a fun example. Or it is calling your business BFF, which was on my list and also something I like to do to celebrate. But here are some other ideas that I've come up with as the beginning of your list of possible celebrations. So you can have a dance party for yourself. You can buy yourself a little treat. For me, it's almost always going to be a donut or a cupcake. Maybe for you, it's a cookie. Maybe it's a whole dang cake. You're like, this is how I'm celebrating. Maybe you don't like sweets and you buy yourself, I don't know, what's a non-sweet treat?
The only thing that popped into my head was like carrots, but I'm like, who's just going out and buying carrots? I don't know.
You buy a metaphorical carrot, whatever it takes for you. Maybe it's also a literal carrot. I'm not judging you. If a carrot is your treat, like, go Bugs Bunny yourself. That's great. Other ways to celebrate: you could take a day off, a week off, a month off, an hour off, take a little break. You could go for a walk in your favorite place in nature. You could gift yourself a special object or experience. You could share your success with your network and get that sort of like flood of other people celebrating with you. You could do a really good stretch. You could sing a song. Maybe you write your own celebration song and you sing it every time you're celebrating yourself. That seems cool.
I love that so much. With the amount of songs that we come up with over at our house, that sounds like something I'm going to get into next.
Beautiful. Okay, well, that feels like the perfect one to end on then. So I look forward to circling back with you, Brigitte, and all of you listeners about your celebration song. We'll check in on that in the future. But Brigitte, I'm curious if you could offer any sort of like advice or maybe a little pep talk you'd like to give all of your fellow neurodivergent entrepreneurs out there as they're trying to like keep going in their businesses. Is there any wisdom, however poignant or lighthearted, that you might want to share with all of us as we wrap up today?
I know that one thing that all the past versions of myself always need to hear, and current me, is that it's okay to go slowly and to keep slowing down. And you're right where you're meant to be, right here. You know exactly what you are meant to know right now, and that's enough. You're doing enough. You're doing a good job. And all of this stuff will fall into place over time. You don't have to worry about, like, am I going to get there? Is it going to happen for me? Am I ever going to figure this out? I think if you just keep going and stay dedicated and focus on those things, like hold those intentions of the things that are valuable to you in your life, that's what's going to keep you going. And when you feel like you can't do that, to reach out, because that's where we really need each other.
I just feel so encouraged and so seen by everything that you've shared here. I hope folks hold that pep talk close to their hearts. And if they would like to go deeper with you and your work, Brigitte, where can they find you and how can they be in touch?
A couple good places to find me are on YouTube, youtube.com/@BrigitteMarie.EnergyDesign, and then also on my website, bridgetmarieenergydesign.com. And I am doing custom Notion workspaces, dashboards. You can sign up for a free consult. We can chat about what you need, your friction points, and see what we can build there. And then I also do strategy sessions, which are one-on-one, an hour, where we can go through this whole 7-step framework together to build those systems for you. So that is just a great container if you are needing that support in building these systems to help you find some more ease in your business.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for being here. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in to this episode. As always, we are here to support you. We are cheering you on. And until next time, we will see you off the grid. Thanks for listening to Off the Grid. Don't forget to grab your free Leaving Social Media toolkit at offthegrid.fun/toolkit. This podcast is a Softer Sounds production. Our music is by Melissa Caitlin Carter of Making Audio Magic, and our logo is by Natelier Studio. I'm your host, Amelia Ruby, and until next time, I'll see you off the grid and on the interweb.
Let's go off the grid. Okay. Let's go off the grid. Okay. I know that you're